Don't you love it when things are both easier and more affordable? Like when the rain washes your car for you. Or like when you save up to 10% by bundling your renters and auto insurance with USAA. Bundle with USAA and start saving. Get a quote today.
Hilton brings you new ways to stay with experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
From the Fifth Quarter Studio in Madison, Wisconsin, you're listening to the Coaching Youth Hoops Podcast.
They're playing basketball.
Here's our hosts, Steve Collins, and Bill Flitter.
Coach, welcome back to another episode of Coaching Youth Hoops. I'm your host, Coach Bill Flitter. We are back for part 2 with Dr. Dave on emotional composure. Before we get started, though, big shout out to our sponsor, Game Changer. Game Changer, in one word, is awesome. Keep track of game stats. And all you have to do is set up your camera, point it on the court. They can score everything with assists, rebounds, and everything is just one click away. Train one of your assistants or your parents. It literally is just tap, tap, and scores happen automatically. Check it out at gc.com/coaching youth hoops. Now on to the episode.
Yeah, there might be one step I might put before that as well.
Okay.
So in that first step is you're talking to their head. You're trying to rationalize with them. I might try to control or alter their physiology first to get them to be more receptive to hearing what you have to say. So some simple things you could do is a quick breathing exercise. So take a deep breath, or I'll have them stretch, or there's an old saying that you can't be grateful or happy at the same time that you're angry or fearful. Right. So I'd say, all right, I can't, try to smile and frown at the same time. It can't be done. Right. So I want to use that simple framework to say, let me get them in more of a positive state with a simple tactic. Take a deep breath, stretch, crack a joke if the person's responsive, that type of person. And then from there, once the shoulders go down a little bit physiologically, then I can start having that conversation and start interjecting some positive coaching.
And then in the case, and of course, we're never going to say, yeah, you really had an awful game, or yeah, you could have done better, right? I know that, I wouldn't say that anyway. But at the same time, it's, okay, if they actually did have a bad game and they feel it, they know it, you're walking this fine line of protecting that child and not letting them go deeper, right? And feel more awful because they're looking up to you for maybe some inspiration, but yeah, they just didn't have it that day. Because here's where my head always goes to say, okay, they're not dumb, right? And if I say, oh no, you did fine, they're like, coach, like, come on, like, I did it too, right? So help me walk me through that scenario when I know they actually did have a bad day.
Yeah. So yeah, the BS detector is alive and well in our athletes. So you don't want to lose your credibility.
Right.
So the question is, how do you present it in an emotionally intelligent way that it's well received, but yet honest?
Right.
And so, figure out what your style is, figure out what will be received by your athletes. But I guess some golden principles were be, yeah, it wasn't, our best effort. I tend to like to use the words I, or we, or us, as opposed to just singling out, you. So yeah,
Hmm.
we kind of laid an egg today as a team, but that's all right. We've done great things in the past, so then I quickly reframe. We've done great things in the past. I know we work hard, and sometimes the win-loss column doesn't go in our favor, but we're going to focus on effort. We're going to focus on teamwork. We're going to focus on bouncing back after this. And then, of course, you and I would throw in the old Lombardi quote, right? So,
Yeah.
it's not if you get knocked down, it's about who gets up.
Right. Yeah.
That's how I would approach it. So I wouldn't say, no, you played great if they didn't, but I wouldn't say you stunk. I'd say, yeah, we all have off days, but I know tomorrow is going to be better. That way you don't lose the credibility, but then you're reframing it positively.
Hmm. And in the case where you have an athlete who uh, makes a mistake in a game and does one of two things at that point, well, maybe three, hangs their head and walks the other length of the court with their head down. That's one. Two, looks up to their parents, right? And with this look of like, oh gosh, I'm going to look what they're, how they're looking, feeling, or looks to me and to see my reaction to that. So as adults, obviously, and as a coach, we have to also have, right, composure in those particular situations and realize that mistakes are going to happen. And the last time you were on, we talked about this idea of next play, and that's what I always yell out. First thing, next play, whatever it's right. And I just say next play, and everybody knows on my team what that means because we talk about that. So, what do we do in that situation though with a child who did make a mistake, or maybe he's making a series of mistakes,
Mhm.
um, and then has the walk of shame, so to speak, right?
Yeah, yeah. It depends on the age. So,
Mm-hmm.
with the younger kids, pre-high school, let's just say,
Yeah,
they're still learning. They're still like baby giraffe legs, right? So to
right.
speak,
Yeah.
trying to find their footing. So I would always use a positive coaching moment there.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you can bring them back into the game, I think is important. That's such an important skill. So that next play mantra or whatever coaches want to use, I think is
Mm-hmm.
vital. And then after the game, well, during the game, perhaps during a timeout, I might do something where I'll talk about body language. I like to show videos. There's a famous video that's out there with the UCLA player. I forget the folks, but they're running down
Basketball
the
player, right?
yes, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the point guard picks up the jaw. Who he's down like this. He picks him up.
Oh, I haven't seen that
Down,
one. Oh,
yeah, I'll
okay.
send it to you if I can
Yeah.
find it. And then there's another one that just came out as well. But I love these little instances of the teammates picking each other up. So when
Mm-hmm.
the body language is a tell about where their head is at. So promoting body language. So whether it's standing up tall or doing the Superman power pose, whatever it is, try to build that into the repertoire as well.
Mm.
And then, after the game, that's a good coaching moment as well. Say, hey, I noticed this tendency, when those last couple plays didn't go well. You got Butterfingers today and the ball gets out. That's all right. We've all been there. But I notice your habit is to kind of look to the stands and put your head down, whatever it might be,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
then first highlight it and say, perhaps a better approach is to go after and be extra intense on defense or whatever it might be. So how can we channel that into something more positive? And that's where those coaching moments are, knowing that their natural tendency is to put their head down and perhaps do the walk of shame or whatever. And we want to break that over time. It's not going to happen automatically.
Yeah. And again, I think this goes back to what you said earlier, which this is just sports is a lesson for life. And these are moments and teachable moments that happen at rapid fire in a game that we can then teach our athletes how to handle these and how so then they become better people outside the game as well. And I think this subject is one of those that just like you said, it happens in every game. It happens because it's sports, and it's something that we have to teach our athletes how to deal with. Let's dive into the kind of the opposite though, where, we win. Two things in that. One is we win, we're high, right? We're at a 10 on the excitement scale. And we win, but an individual feels their contribution was less than subpar on that win, which is more, I think, more maybe of a difficult situation because you're excited. You just won as a coach, and you see this player who's down, and you're like, hey, why are you so sad? We just won the game. Versus say, whoa, what's, feeling them out and recognizing that feeling.
Yeah, and that's where having a very dashboard of success is important. And what's on that dashboard? Obviously, every athlete looks at the win-loss column first. And as coaches, we try to downplay that as, yes, do the right things, the effort, have fun, great teammate, and the wins and losses will come. But that's just human nature, right? That's why grown men cry when their favorite team loses and things. Emotions are part of the game, and that's why we love sports. Imagine no emotions in sports, right? There probably wouldn't be any. So that's the draw. So in this scenario, the team wins, exciting, and a player is down. I would draw on other things they did well. So whether it was being there and supporting, whether it was being the best, the loudest cheerer on the bench, whatever it might be, even if it didn't show up in the stats, highlighting other areas that are important to the team and their success. And some nights the ball falls in our favor, and other nights it doesn't. So, but if we have an appropriate dashboard of success, we have other things we can go to. So, who cheered the loudest? Were you always smiling? What was your body language? Were you positive to your teammates? Or were you just sitting on the end of the bench quietly? Or were you glaring at the ref? So I look for other things that we can control, because I could go out there in the best state of mind, the best physical condition, and just be shut down by a superior athlete. But I did my best. So what can we control? So I go to the controllables as much as I can, and then try to reframe things as a positive.
Well, and what came to mind too, as you were talking about all of this in the gestures and the, pushing the chin up of your teammates. I guess I have two points. The first question I'm going to ask you though is, you and I are in the same team. You just blew a wide open layup, right? And you're walking up the court. I recognize that, I close your mouth or lift your chin ups, right? Now, I'm going to assume in that particular case, you and I are teammates. We got to get our head back in the game. That blown layup is in the past, can't take it back. I have to react, or you have to react to literally the next play, right? Versus me as your teammate recognizing that you're having this emotion. You see where that question is going. So because I'm not recognizing that you have that emotion, right? Because I'm just saying, hey, get your head back in the game.
Yeah. That's where in practice, it's great training ground for emotional game as well, the game in their head. So, so I would notice those things, and I stop practice sometimes and ask, all right, how you feeling? And they say, oh, I'm down. In their body language may not have shown it, but then I'll say, all right, if you're going to be down, what's going to happen? I know that you're going to not play your best on defense, and you're probably going to look foolish twice. So let's just get that behind us so that you can show up best in this moment right now. So I use moments like that in training, and then that's where you build the culture. So your red dot, the next play, all those philosophies and tactics then help build this. When we're under pressure, we can respond more adaptively and better as opposed to regressing. But I'm not going to say we're going to eliminate it, but the bounce back is much quicker.
Yeah. It's the mistake response, right? That's really important. And if you think about the game of basketball, and a lot of sports, but basketball is quick, right? so is tennis and some other sports, but that's not what I meant. But just the it's literally an emotional roller coaster. You obviously you can have your strings of successes where you're high, 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 right? And then you go, but you could literally be up and down, high, low, high, low, high, low, right? Because you made a basket. Oh, I just got blown by in defense. Oh, okay, I just made an amazing assist. Oh, I just got beat back. I just got beat in transition, right? So you're kind of that. And I think where this emotional intelligence comes into play and emotional response is you have to you got to be that. And tell me if this is the correct thought, is in helping my athletes, is you just got to be even, right? Because we know it's going to change either way, or it could change either way really quickly.
And that's a good baseline. I'm dating myself here, but
Yeah.
Never Nervous Purvis Ellison, right? So Never Nervous Purvis, 1989. I think he was the first draft pick out of the NBA. He won the national championship at Louisville. So if I recall, they were probably the inferior team on paper, but he was the main reason. Don't quote me on that, but from my 40-year-old memory, 30-year-old memory, that Never Nervous Purvis mentality was so critical. And that guy was just so cool out there back in the day. And we still see athletes like that. Things don't faze them.
Right.
But let's not be so naive to think that every player can get that. That's the state of where they're constantly there. So what we want to do is kind of cut off the edges of that 1 to 10 scale a little bit. And if we always can't stay at the 5, maybe we can bring it in from a 3 to an 8. And it's easier to regulate there. But when we get to the extremes, sometimes someone's got to sit on the bench for a while to control themselves, or whatever it might be. And that's both, we might be too hyped. We've seen that people coming out of the gate. Our job as a coach is to get them to the right level. And I'll use golf as an example, right? So versus football, watch them come out of the tunnel. They're beating the heck out of each other, headbutting. We don't see golfers do that. So 2 different sports, 2 different emotional states. Basketball is probably in the middle, right? So we're not out there. So figuring out what that is, and when the stakes get higher, those championship games or playoff games, it's our job as coaches then to manage them closer to that midpoint as best we can with certain tactics and tools.
Well, and I want to go back to something, these micro moments in a game, these micro gestures in a game, that I think we could add to our toolbox, which is, okay, high five when somebody's shooting a free throw, right? You know how people come together, they give a high five. Okay, that's one. Fist bumps, another one. Just, hey, you gave me an assist, right? And I point to you, right? So I recognize you for that great pass you did. These are all part of that equation of emotions, right? And maybe the putting your arm around your teammate, saying, okay, next play, right? Or it's whisper in the ear, or a slap on the behind, right? Of saying, hey, come on, next play, get right. So all of those little gestures play into changing our emotions. Is that a kind of?
It certainly does. And that's why I like.
Another one, helping a teammate up too. That's a big one, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, because what it does is it brings the focus on being a great teammate and supporting people, celebrating the small wins. And that's another great tactic coaches can do. I'd write that one down. Celebrate the small wins in the game, in the moment, because that's an antidote or a buffer to the negative emotions. So, so yes, I like that list of things that you just described that athletes can do to kind of buffer the negative emotions and bring people back. Another tactic I use as a coach, if there's a great play and in soccer, someone scores a goal or someone makes an improbable basket, I rarely will yell out and congratulate the person that scored. Rather, what I do is I'll call out the person who made 2 passes before the assist. It wouldn't have happened had that person not done that. And it gives me an opportunity to celebrate everybody. It's obvious the person scored the goal, scored the basket, whatever. But I like to
Yeah.
acknowledge it's a team effort, and that's also a way to build people up. So I like to interject those as well to spread the wealth and to recognize it's the little things that don't show up on the stat sheet that probably matter the most. And then it has a buoying effect to people's emotions throughout the game.
Where does stress and anxiety, because I see that a lot in players, fit into this? And what can we do to help players manage that? And a lot of times you see it right before a game, or they don't know that what's going to happen in the game and who you're playing and how they're going to perform.
So it's huge. So anxiety, simply put, is the killer of performance. So is the antithesis. So we want to control anxiety as much as we can. It's fine to have butterflies in your stomach. But then it's our job as coaches to make those butterflies fly in formation, as sports psychologists like to say. So a little jitters is good. That's getting the optimal amount of arousal. But anxiety is getting towards that 9 or 10 on that scale. That can be crippling. And then we're not fluid, we're not crisp and fast as players. So here's a few practical tips that coaches can do. Let me go through pre-game, during game, and perhaps after the game, some tactics.
Perfect. Yeah.
Nothing rocket science here, but I think the categorization is something that you can add into with some of your favorite techniques. So before the game, I'm a big fan of doing some quick breathing exercises or stretching or whatever it might be, just for about 2 minutes. And take them through. I think I shared on a previous podcast. I saw Marquette University do this.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Remind coaches what that was, because that was a good one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
During the big dance, the coach called a timeout, and he let the sports psychologist take over, and they used the full 2-minute timeout to do nothing but breath work, because that's what they determined the team needed at the moment. So I'm not saying you necessarily do that, but perhaps you can use 30 seconds of it. Another thing you can do is just the positive self-talk before the game. So breath work, positive self-talk before the game. So I like to go around to every single player. I make sure I go and touch their shoulder and I say something quiet just between them and me, like, boy, I'm so excited to see how you have, it's never what you're going to accomplish, but it's rather your path to mastery. I really like the progression you made in boxing someone out. I can't wait to see you take it to the next level this game. I'll go up to the next player. Boy, I really have enjoyed seeing how much better your game has gotten since you've learned to dribble with your left hand more consistently. Keep it up. So I'll go to each player and say something simple like that. So that's pregame. Then during the game, right, what do we have at our disposal? We have our timeouts. So I will use those timeouts for quick reframes, which oftentimes is more important than the X's and O's. And I know the vast majority of coaches go right to X's and O's and start yelling if things aren't going well. So it's not the best. So reframe that negative into the positive. Otherwise, anxiety is going to be heightened.
Yeah.
We want anxiety to come down, because when anxiety is high, we lose focus. The cortisol actually makes our muscles not move the way we want to over a long period of time. So I focus on the positive.
So yeah, you talk about those. Oh, you done? Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say those butterflies. So there probably hasn't been a game that I just go into where I'm like, oh, I'm cool. I always have butterflies. And I always tell the kids that, because I think what that does too, it helps them like, oh, that's natural, right? And I said, I've been doing this for 20 years and I still have butterflies. I don't care if you're third grade or a coach of my high school team, right? I have butterflies in my stomach. And the reason is I always think, I'm going through like, okay, did I prepare them enough? Did I give them the right tools that they need? Am I like ready to mentally to handle the situations that are going to arise in this game? Can I get my emotions in check, right, when they need it the most? Or am I going to lose my temper when things don't go according to this quote unquote plan I have in my head, right? Yeah. And I think that's just natural. And I think if we share our feelings as well, that will put them at ease.
I would reframe that. So if I got to coach you, I would say this: that's all natural and it's good. And when the butterflies, you stop feeling the butterflies in your stomach, you probably know it's time to hang it up. So I like butterflies are there. But what I would say is the reframe from Are we prepared? Did I do enough? I would reframe and say, boy, we trained hard.
Yeah.
Second, I put a great scheme in place. And if that scheme doesn't work, I have a backup. And if that doesn't work, we can go back to our bread and butter basics. So I got three strategies. I believe they look good. They feel energetic. So I start framing it in the positive as a coach. So I'm thinking the right way, and then I can model that because our thinking will influence our words. And back to our BS detector, our athletes are going to pick up on our body language, on
Well,
our
yeah.
language. So I'm trying to
Yeah.
emanate what I want them to have as well.
No, that's a really good point. I'm gonna take that clip and put it on my phone. So when I get that situation, right, I'm gonna play Dr. Dave in my head and I'm like, okay, I am good enough. I am, right? Remember that
Yeah,
Saturday night
it
night
comes down to
clip?
this,
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of the affirmations. I'm a big fan of I've done the hard work and I
Yeah.
can do great things today. I like people to walk the talk. I think the talk is worthless in and of itself. I'm a big fan of positive self-talk, but backed by doing the work. And that's
Yeah.
grounded in science and that's grounded in what makes champions.
That's a really good point. I think, yeah, that we shouldn't skip over too lightly, which is again, I've done the work, they've done the work, we put the hard work in. We have plan A, plan B, and plan C, right? And it doesn't have to be, those plans don't have to be complicated or new schemes or anything, but simple is better in my opinion, in those situations. So two questions, and then we'll put a nice bow on this on the end, which is the first one is, what are those signs that I should be looking for uh, when, it's not quite up there, it's not a six, but it's climbing a little bit. And what can I do to stop it before it gets to a six, a seven, right?
Yeah. So the awareness is the key factor. So if we're all hyped up, our awareness is going to go down. So kind of keeping calm ourselves so we can perceive better. And then from there, it's how do I use my timeouts in the high pressure games at the right down? So if we're down by a few points and I notice people are tense, that's one thing. But if it's a high pressure game down by the same few points, but I notice that their communication's good, their eye contact is good, they have those intangibles. I just might let them ride out, as opposed to calling a timeout. And then coaching or having the assistant coaches in the moment coach when someone's on the bench as well to bring them
Hmm.
up and not assuming it's a one size fits all voice from the head coach. So that's where I like to use assistant coaches or captains or even the least ability, less capable person on the bench may be my best cheerleader or assistant player coach, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, but the whole idea, I think, is for coaches, the go-to is post-mistake recovery.
Yeah.
So when you start to see someone's visibly upset or the team is just dragging or whatever it might be, that's where you quickly acknowledge the mistake. Yeah, our passes weren't crisp. Yeah, we're not catching it. We're throwing it out of bounds. Mistakes happen. Next play. So that quick shake it off mentality is where I would start. And then don't be afraid to use 30 seconds for breath work. Don't be
Yeah.
afraid to, I have my athletes kind of climb the ladder just like this. I shared this before. Boy, it
Yeah.
stretches the spine. It makes them look silly in front of people. It takes their mind off the negative emotion and brings them back. So those quick hitting physiological resets. So every peak performance coach I know believes in physiological resets.
Yeah,
And
my
those,
reset is I always have them kind of just, okay, shit, let's just shake it out. Like shake the ugly out or shake the mistake out or shake the whatever out, right? It's just like, okay, it's off, like get it off of me, right? And
I
then
love it.
that's kind of what we do on that. One question I forgot to ask you, and I don't think it changes much, but it's parents. What can parents do? And the last time you were on, we talked about that dreaded car ride home. And I don't think anything changes on I loved watching you play. That's it, right? That type of thing. But what can parents of athletes do to help them with their emotions?
Yeah, first time is manage them in yourself first. So show the way, and then also just let your body operate at its optimal prime as well. So don't
Hmm.
get too worked up. enjoy it, but just realize, I always say, live as if it's the last game they'll ever play.
I
Are you going to
know.
scream or
Yeah.
yell at them? Or are you going, oh boy, I'm just going to soak this in. So I've reframed. I used to be as engaged, let's call it, as anybody else, but now it's like I'm more cool hand Luke, and I'm just smiling. Said, wow, this is just a great moment. So if you can reframe that and just soak it in, as opposed to being emotionally invested and hyped up inappropriately, that's it. Then what can a parent do for their kid? A hug. It's the best thing to start. There's scientific evidence that says if you hug for 20 seconds, it changes their physiology. And it's a great tactic that a lot of us will use as well. If you stack about 20-second hugs in the day, you do that for a long time, your physiology completely changes and you're happier. So an arm around, or a good old attaboy, attagirl, simple things like that, a fist bump, whatever so something like that that's positive. And then from there, just know that emotions go up and down, up and down. So do not engage in critiquing their performance while they're still in that negative emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And then just give them space. Drive in silence sometimes. That can be the best medicine for kids. After you say, I really enjoyed watching you play. I know it didn't go your way. I'm still proud of the effort and the hustle you put in. Silence the rest of the ride home sometimes may be it. But every kid's different.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, let's wrap this up. So I'm a coach. What are maybe the top 3 things I can do to help players manage, we call it manage their emotions, have this composure with their emotions? And I don't know how you might want to break that up. I know you've done it, pre-game, in-game, and post-game, or just like maybe the top 3 things we should remember. What do you want coaches to take away from today's conversation?
Yeah. So I guess the first thing is breathe to believe. Just use that
Oh, I
breath.
like that. Yeah.
That can reset the physiology and these emotions. So we can't control the emotions as much as we control the response. So take a deep breath. We see pros do it all the time at the free throw line. I guess the second point is positive team talk. So that gets into the body language, picking up people's chin, high-fiving, picking them up off the ground. So how do we talk to each other? And how do we create a culture of positivity and a culture that embraces we fail, we're human, but we get back up faster than anybody else. So breathe to believe, positive team talk. And then I'll say celebrate the small stuff. So as a coach, as player, celebrate those small wins throughout the game in the moment. Because when you're celebrating, it's a positive event and it's not creating the space for the weeds to grow, those negative emotions. So I say those are 3 simple takeaways to kind of get a handle on emotional regulation.
And one of the things that I do typically at the end of the game, win or loss, we always we do a recap. But I always ask them, okay, we always call it the lab is our practice. What do we got to do in the lab next time? And I use that phrase as, okay, we're experimenting, we're still growing, right? We're still figuring out the game together, right? You're figuring out how to play the game. So versus practice, I call it the lab, right? What do we got to do? And I want them just kind of thinking like it's a lab. They can relate to that term. It's an experiment, so to speak, still, right? Anyway, so I don't, my point was I want them to be in tune as well to their performance in the game, good or bad, right? Because it's not always negative. We don't always talk just about the negative. But I frame it in such a way, it's like, okay, what do we got to do? In a loss, what do we have to do to get better? In a win, okay, it was a win, but there's still room for growth. What do we have to do? So, you know what I'm saying? So in both cases, I treat it the same way. Loss or win, what do we got to do? Right?
Yeah.
That's kind of a recap.
Yes. So I think the process in that debrief or recap or watching the film in the lab, the process is the same, but the tools we use in that process might differ based on if after a loss or after a win. So one of it is, how do I model emotional resilience so that I can bounce back? Great lesson after a loss.
Yeah.
So people who are fragile, right? They'll succumb to the pressure and be less than afterwards.
Yeah.
Resilient people will bounce back and be the same.
Yeah.
And then there's another level called anti-fragile on the third level. These people
Hmm.
experience the setback, but they bounce back even stronger.
Oh,
So I want to
interesting.
go beyond resilience and become, lack of a better term, anti-fragile or super
Okay.
resilient.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I want to model. And then after that, it gets the same throughout. What's the constructive feedback, the positive, the negative within that? And then what are goals we're going to set in practice to address, to lean into our strengths and to help overcome our growth opportunities or weaknesses? And then how can we set realistic goals for the game? And that's pretty much it.
David, thank you once again for your time. This was a great discussion. We probably could go on for another hour. But I appreciate you coming back on the show, sharing all that you do. It's such a huge help to our community. And I know coaches get a lot out of it, and they always enjoy listening to what you have to share. So thank you so much for giving back to the game and helping kids. So we really appreciate that.
My pleasure. It's always great to be here.
And tell if coaches want to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can easily find me on LinkedIn or my website, successence.net. Those are the two places where you'll find me the easiest.
All right, David, thank you so much. And coaches, till next time, we'll see you on the court soon.
Take care.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Lowe's knows you take pride in every project. So take on what's next today with a free Select Craftsman hedge trimmer or leaf blower when you buy a 20-volt push mower. That's a $119 value on reliable, high-performance Craftsman tools you trust. For the power to do it all, build, repair, restore, maintain, go with Craftsman. Available at Lowe's. We help. You save. Valid through 5/21 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.